Welcome, everyone. My name is Steve Stein. I'm the founder of Better Listen and WisdomFeed, and most recently, WisdomFeed Plus. So thanks, everyone, for showing up here. And we have Maria Tabone, who's going to be starting up in a couple of seconds. I just give you a little welcome, a little context. So we started about a year ago a community called WisdomFeed Plus, and it's a community and a membership it's been actually pretty exciting how it's evolved. But we have monthly themes. So this month, December, the theme is weeding and seeding. So it's the end of the year. It's a good time to look at what's not working in your life and think about what we're planting seeds for in the new year. And we recently had a great guest, Mark Matusek, and he did weeding and seeding in relationships. So I said, that's interesting. And then I recently have had the good fortune to meet Maria. And so today it's called Taking Stock of Your Diet, but it's really weeding and seeding for your diet. Just taking stock, take a look at where your diet is. So without further ado, I want to welcome Maria. And Maria, welcome. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's so nice to be with you. Thanks to everyone for joining. So I am a holistic nutritionist, which means I focus on more of the entire mind, body, spirit of nutrition. I'm also an Ayurveda practitioner, and I'll for those of you who aren't familiar with it, in a few minutes, I'll give you a little background on Ayurveda. And I'm an herbalist. I do clinical aromatherapy. I also teach yoga and meditation. So I really try to take an approach to nutrition and health and well-being in general, the holistic approach, the whole thing, because it's not just one thing that contributes to your health or keeps you healthy, sustains health. It's the whole thing. It's lifestyle in general. So I love the idea of, weeding and seeding, right? Because for every area of our life, it's essential, I think, to review periodically what we need to change, or I like to use tweak, because I think change overwhelms people. We can all go through swaths of our life on autopilot, right? And then something happens to make you take pause, and reflect. It could be relationships that have gone awry, because all these things affect your life. And then I'll go back to this, how they affect your health, even with what you eat. We decide we don't like what we're doing for a living, or unfortunately illness. And a lot of times we don't change our diet or lifestyle until we're forced. And it's not a criticism, it's just life, right? We're busier than ever, we're more stressed, we're more distracted than ever. We hear it and we know all this stuff intellectually, but we're creatures of habit, all of us. So it's really a process. But my approach too is that I don't believe in overwhelming yourself and trying to change too many things at once, because I think you just set yourself up for failure that way. You hear diets, why they don't work. Well, we do them for a period of time. We get bored, we get frustrated, we give up. So I think it should be a lifestyle, but not one that restricts everything all the time. Like, for example, my husband and I spent the day yesterday with dear friends. We had some wonderful food. We had dessert. We had wine. So, food is pleasurable and food is connection. So it's really to be enjoyed, but respected. So you'll find with me that my approach too is I integrate wisdom traditions, right? Because especially Ayurveda. And these wisdom traditions, they realized a long time ago that chronic imbalance in our life causes disease. And a big part of that imbalance is in our diet. It starts there. And most doctors, sadly, they'll say, well, most doctors only had 5 hours of nutrition training in medical school. So it's not something they focus on. They have to literally send you somewhere else to a nutritionist to discuss your diet. But look, the good news is we're completely in control of what we put on our fork and what we eat. And I think, ancient wisdom, combining it with modern science is really the way to go, because these traditions have been time tested for thousands of years, right? So for Ayurveda is in the Indian system of medicine. It's been around for over 5,000 years. And Aryu means life and Veda means truth or knowledge. So Ayurveda is the truth or the knowledge of your life. And it's the sister science to yoga. But the other thing that I love about it is they do what they've called human trials, right? We have clinical trials in medicine, which obviously we need clearly, but these are human trials tested over time, people's lifestyles, what works and what doesn't. But thankfully, modern science now is coming around to what these ancient wisdom traditions have been saying for thousands of years. And one of the first things is that illness starts with an imbalance in the digestive system. So here we go. This is all connected. I'd say about 95% of my clients have some sort of digestive issue, and I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. But I've talked about ancient wisdom traditions, right? Combining it with modern science. So then I go to, which many of you probably have heard about, which is Dan Buettner's work in the blue zones. And so Dan Buettner teamed up with National Geographic to find these pockets in the world where people live the longest and study them. So, they came up with 5 pockets, which are Sardinia, let me get all these, Costa Rica, Okinawa, Icaria, Greece, and Loma Linda, California, where they have 7-day Adventists. There's a pocket there. Now, clearly, these are not the major metropolitan areas where there's a lot of noise and commuting on bus, boats, and trains, but they provide with some very doable guidelines, and goals to work through. But it is interesting how there's common threads of Buettner's work in the blue zones and what Ayurveda has been saying for thousands of years. And, and these are simple things. You've heard them a million times, that you have to move. Better for your diet doesn't have to be all plant-based, but mostly plant-based. Eating more plants is a better idea. Having strong relationships, or assessing the relationships in your life, because they can either bring you joy or cause you a lot of stress. Those are the things that help people live longer. Also, a strong sense of purpose in life really helps longevity. And then to get back to the digestive system, another thing that has been for thousands of years, Hippocrates said it over 2,000 years ago, and Ayurveda has been saying it for 5,000 years. You cannot achieve and sustain perfect health without a healthy digestive system. So, your digestion starts the minute you take that first bite of food. And nutrition is really more than food, right? What can cause an imbalance in your digestive system? Well, there are multiple factors, but I think the number one is poor diet. But then you throw in stress, you throw in not sleeping properly, you throw in not living in balance with the cycles of nature, which pretty much, means eating seasonally. And a poor diet can also cause like inflammation in the body, which we know now leads to it's a laundry list, but obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune conditions, and even dementia. I mean, the list is endless. And autoimmune disease in this country has been on the rise, exploding over the last bunch of years. So food is an excellent medicine, but it can be used to heal or harm, basically. But so given all of this, and when we talk about weeding and seeding, so it includes it all. Exercise, stress management. I think stress management is the hardest thing that's the hardest one. That's huge. And that's like the rest of them, it's daily work. Again, looking at relationships and how they affect your stress, you like your job. Also, one other thing I'd like to mention is supplements, right? We've gone from, and we're still a heavy pharmaceutical country, but we've also gone from that to taking large amount of nutraceuticals, right? Which is anything that's not a pharmaceutical that we take to help us physically, mentally, emotionally. And don't get me wrong, I'm an herbalist, so I'm a huge fan of supplements and herbs, but I think they should be targeted, right? And not just taken because they're the flavor of the moment, similar to, diet fads, which I'll talk a little bit about, like, being gluten-free and, the cabbage diet, like these things come and go. And so do supplements. So I really think you don't want to, because think of this, anything you put in your body, right? Your body has to process and absorb. So the more stuff you're bombarding yourself with, the more work your digestive system, your liver, your organs have to do to process all of this. So the more natural, the better. And in terms of herbs, and that's another thing I think that's going to be important to seed into your life is eating these spices and things every day.
I have I just have a little feedback, positive feedback.
Yeah.
I would say that, when I met Maria maybe 5-6 weeks ago, even though we may have known each other from workshops indirectly over the years, but a couple of things resonated, and why I invited her, and I'm glad everyone's here today, is, in WisdomFeed, one of our taglines is taking ancient ideas down to street level. Practical, so what, I grew up in Brooklyn, and, everyone's getting older, and, this stuff used to be really, really fringe. Yoga was fringe not so long ago. It's insane. So I resonated to the fact that taking ancient ideas down to street level, so and a whole holistic approach, which I totally resonate with that. So, but getting down to street level wisdom, or what's practical, if someone wanted to take inventory or weed and seed their diet, what do you do with clients? Do you have them write down what they eat for a day? Don't say for like a month, because no one's going to do it for a month. But, so how do we take this wisdom and try to, integrate it into everyday life?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I think it's if you overwhelm people, I remember when I first started doing this many years ago, and I took that approach, right? I'm like, okay, well, you've got to write down everything you eat for a week, all that. Forget it. Nobody's going to do that, So I'm like, give me a general idea of what you eat, right? And right? You know what you're eating every day. Most of us are creatures of habit. A lot of times we'll have the same breakfast, the same lunch. So I think it's take one meal. Like I like to make things simple. All right, take one meal. What are you having for breakfast? Right. And when people talk to me, most of the time they'll say, well, here are the top things for breakfast: yogurt, cereal, pancakes, muffins. And then, of course, let's not forget the frappuccinos, right? All those sugar, those we're having. And I've said to people, okay, so first of all, you're having dessert for breakfast. That's what you're doing, because you're knocking the sugar out of the park. Those, I looked on some of the Starbucks site, I believe, and one of the drinks was 1,000 calories and I think 40 some odd grams of sugar. So, so this is how you're starting out your day. So I'm like, all right, just let's look at one meal. Give me any breakfast. And so that just got people to think about, oh, okay, well, that needs to change, right? So as far as like some things that I think let's start with weeding out, right? And the other good thing is you're in control of it all. It may be difficult, do it in small increments, and you'll get there.
And on the holistic track. I think that we do in WisdomFeed, we have work with a lot of mindfulness practitioners and teachers and thought leaders. And, so there's the gap, so you don't have control over what insanity is on CNN or Fox or whatever you're watching, but you do have control of how you react to it. You don't have control, and you do have control over what you put on your spoon and put in your mouth. Now, doing that mindfully is important, but there's just the basic science of the makeup of what you're putting in. So sugar, I'm not a zero sugar guy, but I get that it's not the great way to start the day, because it just frizzles, those, I'm going to date myself. They used to have those commercials. This is your brain and this is your brain on drugs. And it was like they showed a picture of a fried egg. So this is your nervous system and this is your nervous system on sugar. It's the same idea. It's like, so I appreciate what you're talking about. You do have control over how you react to things and what you put on your spoon and put, in your mouth. So I think that, that thought alone kind of takes away, it's hard. It's hard because there's so much marketing to get you to like this and eat this and drink this, and whether it's technology or food. So I just appreciate the holistic, how it's really all tied in, and a mindfulness approach to it is part of weeding. It's hard to, like, I'm not letting go of my coffee. Don't mess with my coffee.
Right.
But I'm just,
I won't.
But I'm just kidding though. But at the same time, you have, I know if I have too much coffee, I'll go, flatline, not really flatline, but my body will start to shut down. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents.
No, but you're right. But you mentioned, like, of course, and I know WisdomFeed, the platform about mindfulness, right? Just even bringing some mindfulness into every meal, right? Just start there. Just look at what you're like. I try to get everyone, and some on here will know this because it's a mantra I always repeat every morning. I'm not going to tell you not to have your coffee because I love mine too. Have a hot glass of water in the morning. You can add lemon if you want for taste. That little thing that you can do will help flush out all the toxins in your body, cleanses your intestines, washes the GI tract, flushes your kidneys. It stimulates peristalsis to help you eliminate. Like just that one little simple thing. I've been doing it for years. And I have to tell you, I had digestive problems years ago, and it really was a game changer for me. So but I'll have that. And then I start my day. Then I can have a cup of coffee or tea or food, but brush your teeth and then start with that water. And look, I commute to the city a couple of times a week. So I'll take it in a thermos, or I'll go to the train station and I'll buy a tea and say, hold the tea bag. Like just put the tea bag on the side. So, figuring out ways to get these things into your, just into your daily life, some of the things I would say that to weed out are things that are, look, they're common sense that everybody knows, right? Processed and refined foods are not great for you. Think of, and the definition is, think of a Twinkie versus an apple. So, sometimes it's, and I don't get too fanatical about this stuff. If it's frozen vegetables in Ayurveda, we feel that anything frozen has lost what it's called, like its life force, its energy. So, but that being said, if it's easier for you to get frozen vegetables, as long as you eat them, buy them, right? If that works for you, as long as you're getting, it's the same way I feel about organic. Is organic better? Yes, it's clearly better. But if you can't afford organic, buy the broccoli, buy the apple. It doesn't matter. As long as you're eating that, instead of spending that $1.49 on broccoli, you're going to spend it on junk. Spend it on the broccoli. Doesn't have to be organic. And when you go to the supermarket too, eating seasonally, really important. Eat what's in season. You'll go to the supermarket now, you'll see winter squashes. Great. You won't see those in the summer. So eat those. Try to keep your diet pretty seasonal. The one other thing that goes along with the hot water, anything that you eat that's cold, like ice cream or anything with ice cubes, right? We're big on putting ice cubes in everything. It douses what Ayurveda refers to as the digestive fire. So you need that digestive fire, obviously, to digest. You need it for everything in your life, really. It gives you energy to do anything, even energy to make decisions to change a job, that fire that you've got in the belly. So you don't want to douse it. And when you eat and drink a lot of cold things, you're dousing that digestive fire. So
I have a question. So with
Yeah.
digestive fire,
mm,
and you went to the metaphor fire in the belly.
Yeah.
So how, is there science that kind of jives with that?
So, again, I go back to Ayurveda and the thousands of years of looking at human beings and the digestive tract. Yeah, there is science behind this, which, thankfully that we're talking about more and more now. And Ayurveda has always believed that, well, and think about it this way. So you have your breakfast. You should never skip breakfast. It's always good to jumpstart your day with breakfast. But between 10 and 2 o'clock, according to Ayurveda, is your digestive strength is the strongest between 10 and 2. So they never recommend, we talk a lot now about intermittent fasting, but it's never recommended to have a heavy meal at night because, look, we all know if you go out to dinner, I know my husband and I, if we go out to dinner and it's late, it's 8, 9 o'clock, you're so stuffed, you can't sleep at that point. So it's better to just, I'm not saying don't have dinner, especially if, you're diabetic and have other health issues and have to eat certain times of the day. You need to talk to your doctor about that. But at night, have a soup by 6 o'clock. Have a lighter meal because your digestive fire is weaker. So you want to have the biggest meal in the middle of the day when that fire is stronger. And I've been doing that for years too. And it's really, that'll change your life. It'll change everything because your digestion matters so much to your health that once you start improving that, and by the way, it takes a while to improve digestion. That doesn't happen with a week's worth of meals. That can be like a 6-month process of habitually doing different things to just kind of to get your body back on track. Like for breakfast, for example, like I mentioned, all those foods, like a healthier breakfast would be, trying to cut the sugar out. And Steve, to your point, I never tell people cut the sugar out all the time. Look, you got to enjoy things in moderation, right? But even for breakfast, like instead of maybe having oatmeal all the time, and oatmeal is a perfectly healthy food, but try making quinoa the same way you make oatmeal. Add some nuts and some plant-based milk, or you could add regular milk if that works for you. Because quinoa is a grain, but it's a protein. So it'll help jumpstart your metabolism in the morning. A great Ayurvedic breakfast, very simple. Cut up an apple, saute it in ghee, which is cultured butter. And ghee is actually a health food, good for digestion. They've been using that in India for thousands of years. Cinnamon and cloves, it's really warming. That's the other thing. We're in the cold season, so you don't want to put cold on top of cold because that'll just make you colder. If we're in a cold season, eat warming foods. Even have like some eggs with avocado in the morning, a little bit more protein. If you're trying to slowly cut down on that sugar, and you'll feel better, you'll have more energy, it'll make a big difference in your diet. The other thing, Steve, were you saying something? And
Yeah,
anybody
say that,
you'll jump in whenever you want.
Yeah, so I have a question. You talked about the Ayurvedic fire, or when the body has more fire, more digestive power.
Yeah.
So between that and Ayurveda in general, and they talk about the microbiome or the gut biome,
Right, the
and
bacteria in
then
the gut.
for me, I've been recording all kinds of people for a long time now. And, I listen for themes, when different best-selling authors or different speakers. And the themes in general is you want to make your body more alkaline as compared to more acidic. Milk is harder to digest, meat is harder to digest, and it doesn't digest, so acid reflux, it's hard to digest. So I think part of that is being more alkaline is eating more greens and whole grains.
Right.
So how does that tie in with Ayurveda?
Because basically Ayurveda is exactly what you said. It is a more alkaline way of eating, right? It's more plant-based. They use meat as a condiment, not as like a big steak on a plate. It's used more as like a side dish because, again, it's harder to digest. So even with lemon, lemon helps to alkaline the body. So there's people put lemon in their water. So they're basically the whole Ayurvedic way of eating. And the other good thing about Ayurveda is, which we'll get into more in the masterclass that I'm doing in January, but every single person on this call is different. And we all need different things. There is no one size fits all in eating, because my body needs something different than your body needs. But we do know that, too much of an acidic diet can cause illness. But they innately knew this thousands of years ago. The diet was always more alkaline from the beginning. They just knew that over time that this worked better for people, and people are healthier as a result. So, the other thing I wanted to mention is snacking. Now, again, if you're diabetic, that's another story, right? But snacking, people snack a lot, and that really doesn't allow your body to rest and digest properly. If you feel that you have to snack, maybe have some nuts around, but especially if you're trying to lose weight, I mean, you don't want to be snacking all day long. But again, that digestive fire, you want your digestion to work properly. So if you're snacking all day long, it's constantly going to digest and assimilate and absorb these nutrients. So that would be something that I would try to focus on weeding out over time. Let's see, I'm just thinking. So
And intermittent fasting, I know, is the thing that people talk about. And I guess that ties in with not eating late at night.
Right. So I've been intermittent fasting for probably 3 or 4 years. I eat my last meal by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, unless I'm out somewhere or have dinner plans. Then that doesn't, then it's different. I adjust to whatever I'm doing. But for me, that was a game changer. And this is also being especially studied in Italy. It had the effects of intermittent fasting and how it contributes to longevity, because as we get older, we need less calories, but again, good calories, right? You can intermittent fast and eat a lot of junk. I've known vegetarians that were unhealthy vegetarians and people that, eat gluten-free, but if you're eating gluten-free cookies and cakes, you're still eating a lot of sugar and processed food. So even though you think it's a health food, it isn't. And the other thing that we eat a lot of is these non-calorie sugars, right? Whether it's stevia, monk fruit, aspartame, saccharin, they also have been known to, what you talked about, alter the microbiome, the bacteria in the gut. And they also can act in the body in a way that causes weight gain. So while we think that we're drinking all this Diet Coke, which is, of course, refined and has a whole bunch of toxic chemicals in it, it's not helping us lose weight. It may actually be doing the opposite. So, but again, I think all of this is about being mindful of those things. Look, we know that if we look at the back of a soda bottle, half of it, we don't even know what those ingredients are. So we shouldn't think about ingesting it into our body.
Yeah, I'll look at labels, and I kind of count syllables. Like if there's a lot of multiple syllable words like phosphate, fluoride, bicarbonate of whatever, that's just, it's not a good sign. My kids make fun of me, of course.
Of
They're
course.
teens now, but but I've learned more syllables. And then someone said the closer it is to nature, the less processed, the better. So
Right.
that also relates. And I'm just going to quickly say, I'm putting in the chat information about the Wisdom Feed membership. And also we have a Facebook group where this recording will be live for the next 48 hours. That's the only replays that we plan on right now to have this. So feel free to grab that link. And maybe, Maria, you could, what we call taking stock, weeding and seeding. Maybe you could kind of sum up, and then perhaps people could turn their cameras on if they want, and we could do a Q&A kind of thing. So.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Oh, Sally, I just saw that comment about stevia and monk fruit. Yeah. I mean, I prefer them to use them if I need to, but they still have that same effect on your body as any other sugar. Rika, you replace sugar with pure cane sugar, it's still sugar. So my thing would be in moderation, right? If it's, try to be mindful of having it every day, because anything fructose, high fructose corn syrup, especially honey, which I love, maple syrup, it's all sugar, unfortunately.
No, don't take away my maple syrup.
All right, have it on your pancakes.
No, but like I remember I had Joel Furman on a couple of months ago. I said, no, maple syrup, it's so much better than pure maple syrup is better than, Aunt Jemima or, this stuff with, high fructose corn syrup. So,
yep.
But
it's
I
still
think that,
sugar.
I think to me, that's less syllables, the better. What would you replace maple syrup with? Good question.
I think maple syrup is going to be fine. Like, I think, if you want to have a little maple syrup or a little honey or even coconut sugar. Yes, coconut sugar has a lower glycemic index. So coconut sugar is better. But still, keep in mind they're all sugar. You want to have any of them in moderation. But I would, if you're going to do it, the honey, maple syrup, and coconut sugar is okay. And even a little bit of molasses. And the reason I say that is because it is so nutrient dense, as is honey. I was sick a few weeks ago. I was having honey. It's soothing to the throat. It's good for viruses. So, but, again, all in moderation. So I think I love something that Michael Pollan, who's a food writer and journalist, said. He says, eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. The other thing that I think is really important, and again, just to be mindful, like adding more spices to your diet, right? Instead of salt and these, use cinnamon, ginger, turmeric, rosemary, cloves, cumin, whatever you like. There's so many of them out there. Try a different vegetable, try something that you haven't made before. I think these are simple things that you can do. One good thing that the pandemic did was people cook. People started cooking because they couldn't go out, and, which is always a healthier thing to do. And then the other thing that ties into this is, again, how do you sleep? And those are bigger conversations, but this is all part of nutrition, because when we sleep, we heal. And what are we eating? What is our nutrition, our day, what we eat helps us to get better sleep or not, depending on what you're eating. I also think that, detox diets are okay for a short period of time to think about resetting your system. That might be something for the new year that you can seed into it. like even a 3-day detox. I don't think people need to go crazy. And try not to eat, chew. That's a big one. Try to chew that food so it's easily digestible and your body absorbs it. And try not to eat when you're upset or stressed or in front of the TV, because again, that will affect how you digest food and then how you absorb these nutrients. So they're just little things to be, mindful of in our lives. Because you all know, look, you should eat more vegetables, right? Eat more good fruits that are low glycemic, like berries, avocados, all that good stuff. And the gluten thing gluten's been vilified, and with good reason. Some people, if you have celiac, you stay away from it. Some people say they're gluten sensitive, but gluten's been around for thousands of years. So why can't we digest it? And part of the reason is because our digestive systems are so screwed up. And of course, the gluten, there's issues with the gluten on how it's treated with herbicides and pesticides. But I would say, look at these things, be mindful of them, and just take little small steps.
So what's one thing you could, if you wanted to, like once a week for someone to do in the new year? Not like, 3 times a day and, what one, if someone wanted to do once a week, I guess let's look at it through diet. Maybe it could even be a mindful meal. I don't know, but what's one thing that over time might help?
I think, to your point, Steve, I think a mindful meal is really important because that'll start setting up these habits. Try to sit quietly when you're eating, or if you're eating with someone that you care about, that's great. Not in front of the TV, not put your phone away, shut it off. Try to really be mindful about what you're eating and how you're eating it. Even if you do that once a week, or try your water once a week if you can't do it every day, and then work up to it. I was just looking at something, Sally, I know. No, it's hard to break that having a sweet every day, right? So a whole fruit is fine. Yep, absolutely, that's fine. And when you asked about detoxing at a cellular level, hot water definitely helps that. And also, eating clean, right? You hear about eating clean. If it can be organic, great. If it can't, that's okay too. But if you're eating lots of greens, as many greens, a lot of herbs, as many as you can incorporate into your diet. If you like grains, it's okay to have them. I've become a fan of farro. I love eating that. But it's all the white stuff, right? All the processed stuff, the white stuff, the cereals, the sugar-laden foods. If we could weed those out of our diet, that's how we detox. We detox with food. And again, the beverages, don't drink your calories. Sodas, all these sweetened drinks, eat like Snapples, whatever they are. Over time, slowly you can try to weed them out, which is helpful. But a clean diet is how you detox.
And so how can I think we're going to start to wind down, and maybe we'll open it up to questions. If people want to just keep typing them in, that's fine, or they can turn on their camera if they like. But how do people find out more about you?
Oh, so I can go to my website, which is, I can put in the chat, theholisticroot.com, or, certainly
Which is it?
email me.
So if people see the recording, they don't see the chat. It's the name of your website?
Holistic Root, and root is ROOT, because I always believe that you've got to get to the root of the problem before you can heal anything. Thanks, Robin. Nice. And Raditya asked about chocolate. Yeah, I think chocolate is a good quality piece of chocolate. Like, I wouldn't do Hershey Kisses, but something that has more than, I think, 70%. That's right, Robin. High school, junior high, isn't it junior high school? Oh, it's high school. Okay. Chocolate's fine. Like, I'd say more than 70%. real good quality chocolate. Nothing wrong with that, filled with antioxidants. I even say have a nice glass of red wine once in a while. That's okay. So, and don't get too fanatical. Try not to be too fanatical because we can all go there. It's very easy to do it. I'm sure we've all done it. I know I can speak for most women that we've always been obsessed with our diet and what we eat and our weight. And I'll tell you a quick thing. My friend went to visit her grandmother in a nursing home, and there was a woman there, and she was like 95 years old. And the woman said to my friend, "Do I look fat in this skirt?" And my girlfriend's like, "Oh my God, she's 95 years old. It never ends. Is there a point where you're ever going to relax?" So I'm like, oh, you just can't get too fanatical about it. But it is the foundation of health. So, Steve, your Wisdom's Feed is all about mindfulness. It's like, we got to get back to just being mindful because we're way too distracted in life in general. So.
Right. Also, while we have everyone here, I want to mention that Maria will be doing a 3-part, kind of a deeper dive. We're calling it Wellness 101, looking at health through an Ayurvedic lens, but it's a holistic view, and it's a 3-part series that's going to be happening in January. And you'll hear from it. You'll hear about it from Maria and from and through, you're on our list as well. So so that is on the calendar for next month. We're excited about that. So look out for that in your inbox. Also, if you're around today at 5 o'clock New York City time, there's this woman, Sally Kempton. We did these summits in the beginning of the pandemic. We had thousands of people attending. It was very cool. And I was fortunate to have Sally Kempton on. And she's more in the yogic tradition. And she's just brilliant. And she was a writer for the Times and the New Yorker 40 years ago. So that's a special treat to try to look out for later today. And of course, next month, the deeper dive with next year. Oh my God, next year with Maria. So that's it for me. Any other questions or any last words from you, Maria?
No, I'm so grateful to all of you for joining, and Steve, to you for hosting. I really appreciate it. And I will say, check out WisdomFeed because it is a wonderful site. Whatever level you're at in your journey, there is something for everyone.
That's a good line. I have to write that down. Yeah. All right. So that's it. If there's, we could go on much longer, but that's not today. That's next month where we're going to get into it and really process it. It'll be a kind of a cohesive 3-part program. So if that's it, I want to wish everyone a happy Mary and Maria. This was great. I'm glad I met you a couple of months ago, and that we're here and people showed up. And thanks each and every one of you for showing up. I hope to see you again. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy and healthy. Thanks.